Hi, I'm Greg Langstaff. I'm a certified resume strategist and interview coach. I'm also a former recruiter, a longtime hiring manager, and I've been helping people land amazing jobs since 2014. Today, I want to talk to you about one of the most important job search tools out there, which is LinkedIn. Now, every month, LinkedIn has over 250 million active users, and at any given time, there are roughly 20 million jobs posted on LinkedIn. So if you are job searching now, or you plan on job searching at any time in the future, having an outstanding LinkedIn profile is a must. Now, if you've ever logged into LinkedIn, you know that it will automatically rate your profile and that the highest rating you can achieve is All-Star status. However, LinkedIn All-Star status is really the bare minimum of what we are shooting for on LinkedIn. I'm going to take all my experience as a recruiter, as a hiring manager, and a career coach and help you build the most outstanding LinkedIn profile possible. Now, specifically, we're going to cover how to stand out with an amazing headline, how to come across as memorable and personable by building a nice, unique about section. We are going to wow employers with an outstanding experience section. We're going to talk about how to get picked up in keyword searches using skills. We are going to talk about photos. What is a good profile photo for a LinkedIn? And how do we use that banner image section? And we'll also talk about how to build some high value connections using low stress networking tools. If this is what you're here for, then you are in the right place, and we're going to get started right now. Now, before you start editing, I'm just going to quickly walk you through how to turn off the update notifications so that your entire network doesn't get a notification every time you make a small change to your profile. So here's how we do it. Click on the drop-down menu that says Me, and then you'll click on Settings and Privacy. And then here we're going to click on How Others See Your LinkedIn Activity, and we'll scroll down to Share Job Changes, Education Changes, Work Anniversaries. Click on that, and then you can see we want this little toggle in the No position. So this is what it looks like when it's in Yes, and then we'll just make sure it's No and it is saved here. Now when we're all done with our mass updates, feel free to return here and turn the notifications back on. There's nothing wrong with notifying your network when you land a new job. We just don't want this turned on right now because we're going to be making dozens of small changes. In the next section, I'm going to briefly teach you how to customize your URL. So that'll catch people's eye when you want them to stop in and check out your profile and it's not your name with a bunch of random characters and such afterwards. So before we do that, if you want to see what my LinkedIn profile looks like, you can check me out here at linkedin.com/in/Greg Langstaff, and that's that nice clean URL that we're talking about. I'm usually changing my profile up pretty often just to experiment, so you can see how I use my LinkedIn there. Now let's move on to talking about your name and URL. Now in this section, we're going to briefly touch on the highest level of branding possible, which is your name and your URL. Now I know this is pretty basic stuff. I just have a couple of quick points to make about your name, and then I'll show you how to change it. Then I'll teach you how to get yourself a nice clean URL, and then we'll move on to the good stuff after that, I promise. So for your name, just two things. It's pretty common for people to add their credentials after their name. Like you can see in mine, I have the MSc for my Masters of Science and the CRS for my Certified Resume Strategist. Typically anything beyond a bachelor's degree is added here, but it's totally up to you. And then secondly, whatever your name is on LinkedIn, just make sure that matches the top of your resume. For example, I wouldn't want to go by Greg Langstaff on LinkedIn and then submit a resume with my full name, like a Gregory A. Langstaff on my resume. So matching is best just for the sake of building that consistent professional brand. So to change your name, it's pretty simple. So on your profile, you'll just click on the edit pencil here, and then you can see name pops up right here and save. And that's all it takes. So next let's talk about your URL. So by default, when you create your LinkedIn profile, it will create a URL that is generally your name and then a bunch of random numbers and letters afterwards. So we can get rid of those numbers and letters pretty easily. To do that, all you have to do is you'll see on your profile, edit public profile and URL. This will open up a new window for us, and then here we see our URL, little edit function, and then we'll save. You might have to mess around just a little bit if you have a common name, so putting a 1 afterwards is fine, or including a dash between your first and last name is fine. If you have to include your middle name here, that's okay as well. This isn't quite as essential as just the name that's going to pop up on your profile. The key is we're just trying to get rid of all those random numbers and letters after our name in the URL. The experience section of your LinkedIn profile is very much like a resume. In fact, if you've got a solid resume already, this section should be fairly straightforward for you. Now in this section, we're going to talk about 3 things. What experience do we include in this section? Tips to make sure your experience section looks professional, and what content to include in the description section for each experience. As for what experiences to include, of course we'll start with relevant jobs. So you don't need to include everything you've ever done, but anything that you are proud of or feel like is a part of your story should be included. And next, we've got our job-like volunteer experiences. If you are showing up for a day to paint faces on children or ladle soup to hungry people, first off, thank you for doing that. But also, yes, this is the kind of simple volunteer experience that you include in the volunteer experience section to show that you're a good person who uses their time to help people. But if you are the treasurer on a board at your local library, or you are the president of your school's archery club and you've got some actual recurring responsibilities and you've developed real skills in the role, that is experience, and that can be included here. Next, I've got a couple little formatting things just to keep in mind as you're creating the experience in LinkedIn. So first, just make sure that everything matches with your resume, like the job title, the company name, the location, start and end dates. Nothing is going to break trust with a hiring manager like having inconsistent information on your resume and LinkedIn. So make sure this matches. Next, if you've worked for a company that has a LinkedIn presence, they should have a logo associated with their company name on LinkedIn. So when you're plugging in the company name, you'll see a drop-down menu. Make sure you click on their name so that the logo appears in your profile. This is also going to connect you with other people who have worked for that organization, which will increase the likelihood that you find useful connection. Now, if your employer isn't on here, there isn't much you can do, so don't worry about it. But just get as many logos as you can based on your experience. And finally, if you've already crafted and updated your headline, please uncheck the box that says Update Headline, because LinkedIn will delete all of your great work and replace your headline with your job title that you just entered. Of course, this only happens if you're adding a current job, but just something to keep in mind. Lastly, I just want to talk to you about what to write in the description section. So I recommend 2 parts. First, a little summary that tells them some context as to what you did in this role, and then a few of your proudest accomplishments as well. So things you can include in the summary section, I would say who you're reporting to, and by this I mean the position, not the person, just to give some context. And then 3 to 5 short phrases that list kind of your high-level responsibilities in the role. It's just 1 sentence. It's okay to use first person on LinkedIn if you need to. So your summary section might look something like this. So reporting to the Executive Director of Finance and Administration, my responsibilities included overseeing a team of 14 staff to manage company-wide bookkeeping, produce quarterly financial reports, analyze financial impact of proposed organizational changes, and contribute to large-scale strategic decision-making. Now this looks like a lot, but as I mentioned, all we've really done here, we've listed who we reported to, and then a few short phrases that describe some of our responsibilities in the role. You can do it. It's that simple. Next, we will talk about underneath that section or that summary, we're going to just include a few bullet points to describe our accomplishments from that role. So a strong bullet point includes three things. We've got our action verbs, we've got some specific quantifiable detail, and results. So I'm going to show you just a couple of these quickly just to give you an idea. So here's an example of a bullet point. We've got some action verbs here, so created and curated. We have some specific quantifiable details, content for 4 major social media campaigns per year on Facebook and Instagram, very specific, that's great. We've got results, so showcase unique value proposition of the Magic Kingdom, and we've got some numeric results here, which is great, resulting in a 5 to 12% increase in followers and page likes per campaign. And if you don't have numeric details like this, an accomplishment could look a little something more like this. So we've got, again, a couple of action verbs: generated, presented. What did we generate? Monthly reports on key performance indicators of online engagement. We presented to senior management, and the result is simply we informed statistically supported strategic decision making. Great. Now, as for how many bullet points to include, we're not really limited on space in LinkedIn. So I'd recommend aiming for at least 3. And then one final note is, as you're making these bullet points, just remember your LinkedIn profile is public. So make sure you're not posting any confidential information in here. And aside from that, that is really how you fill in the experience section of your LinkedIn. It's a lot like a resume, as I mentioned.